Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn, the Sunday edition. Excuse me, the Saturday edition. It might be Sunday. It's probably Sunday when we're recording this, right? I think it is. It's early Sunday morning. It's
yes.
Yeah, it is Sunday. It's good to be back. You can see Ford Field behind us, the empty Ford Field. All those 60,000 plus fans went home happy
or asleep.
Yeah, they probably are asleep by now.
Dreaming about division titles. Yeah.
They are. The Lions beat the Broncos, Denver Broncos, 42-17 here this evening.
Did they run it up? Did they run it up just a little bit? Just a little bit.
I mean, they did throw a pass in their last touchdown. Another one to Sam Laporta, who keeps setting rookie records, by the way. But look, quick. Let me get your overall impressions here. The Lions had lost 2 or 3 coming into this game. Fans were out there worried a little bit. Oh my God, are they even going to win the division? Here comes Green Bay. Here comes Minnesota. Well, those teams have sort of fallen off a little bit. Open up the window, and what the Lions do tonight? They plowed right through. This is easily the best they've looked in a month.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little while. They weren't, on offense, they weren't doing much for the first few possessions, and then they just got rolling and scored on 5 straight possessions, and obviously, 42 points, right? I mean, that's a lot. It was funny because I was talking to Alex Anzalone in the locker room, and he was kind of making fun of the whole, the sky isn't falling, or the sky's falling now, or whatever. And I also asked him, I said, well, the last time was it this team won 10 games? And he's like, he had to think about it. He was like, I don't know. I'm like, want to take a guess? And he actually got it right, 2014. Yeah, when your franchise hasn't won 10 games for 9 years. Yeah, anytime the sky is falling a lot of times for these fans and for the media that cover them too, because you really couldn't trust them. Getting kind of beaten up by the Bears in Chicago last week was not encouraging. And, Dan Campbell said it coming right into the press conference. This was a really hot team, probably the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. So this says a lot about what they can do, what they're capable of. And they just have to find that consistency. And it's going to be against, teams of a higher caliber pretty soon, Dallas, and then the playoffs. So this was a very good sign. It reminds us what they can do, but they just need to do it more often.
They do. It is a good sign. Look, you and I may disagree with this a little bit. I think I think Chicago was actually a slightly tougher test. Obviously, that's partly because it was a Soldier Field, but Justin Fields is just a handful for this particular defense, this Lions defense. And Russell Wilson is not the player he used to be. He can still spin it, fling it, whatever you want to say. He's got a great arm still, but he's not quite the dual threat playmaker. And the Lions were able to get to him because his escapability is not the same. The Broncos defense is good, but it's more opportunistic, I think, than stout. It's not scout.
Don't say cadre.
That's what you do. You scout, right? You scout, you observe, you take notes. You do
scout stoutly.
No. Look, I don't want to diminish this at all. They were impressive tonight. To me, I hate to oversimplify this, but their line was intact. Whenever we've seen their offensive line whole, this is generally what they look like on offense. It's uncanny, and they were missing. And arguably their most important lineman last week in Chicago and Frank Ragnow. You might say Penei Sewell's their most gifted offensive lineman. I don't think he'd get any argument from the Lions. But Ragnow is probably the most important. And when he's back and they're all healthy, and Jared Goff said this after the game, right? He said, when they're playing like that, yeah, we can do whatever we want, essentially.
Yeah, it's hugely important to have that health, and they made some changes in the secondary. And Ifeatu Melifonwu had a really great game back there.
Sure did.
No need to rush back, CJ Gardner-Johnson. It worked well. Aaron Glenn mixed in really good blitzes and blitz looks, zone blitzes and stuff, and it came together. And Denver's not a great offensive team. They don't have much of a passing attack, and the Lions had a really good game plan for this team, and it worked well. So they get a lot of credit for it. But definitely the offensive line, a lot of times as the offensive line goes, so does the offense, and so does this team, because this team is so reliant on the offense. In fact, I think it's very telling that the Lions won the coin toss and chose to go on offense. People kind of gasped a little bit from the fans, but it's like, we don't want Russell Wilson to march 80 yards on us or whatever and score, and then we're behind, and we want to try to set the tone. But as it was a little bit of a back and forth kind of chess match for a little while before any team scored. So, offensive line, if they can stay healthy, and it's tough this time of year. It's very easy to get dinged up, and Ragnow's turf toe is just never going to be right. So it's just a matter of managing it. But yeah, it looked good. It looked like it should look. Hopefully for the rest of the season for them if they can stay healthy.
Look, I don't want to diminish. I just want to make this clear. I'm not trying to diminish this win. You win 42-17 against a team that's won 6-7. Denver is maybe an opportunistic team, but they're also, they got they're a tough-minded team. They're a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team, and they beat some good teams to get here.
Hey, when you level the fair catch guy and you him hard, you're a tough-minded team.
No, for sure. I mean, this was really important, and to the point about the offensive line, yes, this is what they're capable of when they're healthy. However, Jared Goff. We're thinking about the playoffs. We're thinking about what they can do when they get there. We're thinking about a Dallas in a couple of weeks. I don't want to get too far ahead. They got to go win in Minnesota next week to clinch this North Division for the first time since 1991. No, 93, excuse me. It's the first time since 1993. But if we think just theoretically, think about the Cowboys. They want to go down there and stay with the Cowboys. They're going to have to score with the Cowboys, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the offensive line is obviously critical, but Jared Goff is going to have to do what he started doing in the second quarter. Make throws between the numbers of the field to move the chains when he's under some pressure. He wasn't under the pressure tonight, Carlos, the way he was against Chicago.
Yeah.
But he was, he was missing some guys in the first quarter, right? He wasn't making those kind of throws. He started to, and then they scored 5 times in a row.
Yeah. I mean, when he gets time, I think it really, it makes all the difference for Goff. He's not an elusive, I'm going to buy myself some time, move around in the pocket kind of guy. And I think the play action was working well for them when they got the run game going, and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery had a really good game today, running the ball. Jahmyr Gibbs was electric and Montgomery pounded it. It was exactly what they want. In fact, Campbell, someone asked him about it in the press conference and he kind of laughed and they said, is this kind of what you were hoping to be, and he's like, what do you think? Yeah, of course, every football coach on the planet wants to run the ball well. But it's true. I mean, it's come to fruition, and hey, we've all been around. They've been waiting for this, shock and awe treatment for a long time, right? This is what they've always hoped for, a guy who can pound it. And they had it somewhat last year with Williams and Swift, but this is really the epitome of what they want. But that helps Goff. That the offensive line and a really good run game, or a sustainable, consistent run game is Jared Goff's best friend, because he's just not an electric quarterback who's going to make a bunch of off schedule throws. And, he's when he has time, off schedule, off platform, whatever you want, Mr. Brainiac here, Mr. PFF, but when he has time, he's really accurate. He's confident. He makes great throws and good plays and good decisions. And he certainly made those when he had time today.
Yeah, and he's going to have to make a few under duress each game against the best teams in order for the Lions to do. By the way, you were talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know if you mentioned Sam Laporta. Maybe you did. Well,
you mentioned him 5 times.
But you did mention Dan Campbell, and I was kind of joking. What do you think? Well, you know what else he said? He said, well, I've never really heard him kind of say, I told you so before. He didn't use those words, but he kind of leaned into that. It has to do with the draft and the rookies and the criticism. And we're going to tell you what he said and have a little fun with that when we come right back after a quick break. Right? Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. We'll take that break. We'll be right back, and we'll let you know how Dan Campbell not wagged his finger, but kind of said, I told you so a little bit. Welcome back to Free Press Sports, the Lions edition, the game edition. I want to say Sunday night, but again, it's Saturday night. It's confusing around the holidays.
Monday,
they play
Thursday,
games
Saturday.
Once college football is done, at least the regular season college football and the conference tournaments are done.
Friday,
every night is available. Yeah, so it's great. All right, we going into the break, we talked about Dan Campbell and what I think sounded a little bit like I told you so. I want to hear what you say. He was talking about Gibbs and Laporta. Somebody was asked about their production, their play. Maybe he was asked about Laporta, and he brought Gibbs in, and he's just kind of marveling at what these two have done. Laporta all year, Gibbs for most of the year, and who, by the way, he had almost 10 yards of pop tonight, but
he was running hard.
Oh, yeah, no, and he gets the edge, his speed, he's starting to.
Shoulder.
There's very little hesitation now with him, which we saw at the beginning of the year. Where should he go? Is he following his blockers? Is he following the right lanes? All of that. There's no hesitation now at all. It's just, and he's just going to keep getting better and better. And to Campbell's point, as he's talking about this, he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, by the way, we took some criticism when those two were drafted, and then he kind of paused and what did he say? Well, they're pretty good. They're not too bad. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but he was basically saying, "Look on the field," and he didn't say "I told you so," but it was absolutely implied.
Absolutely, more than implied. I mean, it was other than saying "I told you so" and "we told you so." He was trying to give Brad Holmes some credit, and and it was true. I mean, I think that they didn't seem like the obvious most important needs, and I think people wanted Bijan Robinson more than they wanted
or Jalen Carter,
or Jalen Carter. So that's understandable, but they've panned out now. Not everybody's panned out for this team, but they've done well drafting. Brad Holmes does deserve credit. They do deserve, Campbell's part of this too, right? And I'm sure he gets, they talk and what do you think? And we're behind this. And, according to them, it's always kumbaya. There's 100% agreement. Of course, that's never really true. But yeah, if they believed in these players, they've definitely shown that they're not only worthy of where they were picked, but I mean, Sam Laporta is just on a different planet. He just has a skill set that is just crazy. He's got to be their offensive MVP, maybe. I mean, even more than St. Brown.
He's been, they're close. Close.
St. Brown gets double teamed a lot. He gets bracketed. It's like he can't move as freely as he does normally, but that opens things up for Laporta. It's harder. He's usually got a linebacker on him, so it's easier to beat a linebacker than it is to a cornerback or a safety. So, but he has been tremendous. So yeah, you get a lot of credit. And this team has not had great success before TJ Hawkinson of drafting tight ends. They always get criticized. They got criticized for years. So they've exercised that ghost, I think. So yeah, absolutely credit to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes for making these picks and having the conviction.
You're talking about St. Brown getting bracketed and Laporta and how they last week against the Bears, both those guys got taken out a little bit. The running game wasn't quite as effective, partly because Ragnar wasn't there. Yeah. Today the line's back. Laporta and St. Brown are doing their thing, but guess who else is starting to come?
Oh, your guy.
Just a little.
Your guy.
Just a little. He had 4 catches tonight, which, amazingly enough, in his second season is a career high. I mean, it's not. Normally we wouldn't celebrate 4 catches, but for him,
well, receivers don't get that many catches.
No, but not as many as generally a tight end say, right? But for him, it's not the catches. Yes, the catches are important. By the way, he did catch one ball when he had somebody on his back at the sideline away from his body. So that was that the first time you've actually seen him go out and get a ball like that?
No, he's
actually go out and get a ball and bring it in defended.
Not as this has been the most acrobatic kind of.
Yeah, and Goff mentioned it afterwards. He's catching now or we're throwing when they're not great throws. Mm-hmm. That was probably as tough a catch as he's had. He had another play where it took a pass, sort of a swing pass out the sideline, made a guy miss and lowered his shoulder and got hit out of bounds. We picked up the first down. If he's now, Carlos, going to start becoming somebody that'll help move the sticks, and then along with the threat and having to worry about, the defense has got to bring a safety over the top all the time because of the threat of that speed. Mm-hmm. But if he's going to start making plays underneath, what are we looking at here?
We're just looking at Ben Johnson going to the Chargers even faster. It's impressive, and he has so much speed to burn, and that's always been his calling card. It's going to be his calling card. It's going to be the big threat that he has. And if you're using him on shallow crosses and end arounds here and there, I mean that's a great weapon to have. And I think it's going to take a little time. I don't know. We were talking about this a little bit, Shawn, and just going, sideline route, right? Just a go route. Is Goff are they ever going to get on the same page this season? Because he's got so much. I mean, he usually has to adjust, either slow up or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Goff kind of overthrew him today because he's just flying. I mean, you got a rocket ship out there trying to hit him.
And then underthrew him one other time.
And he underthrew him, and it's just tough. I mean, don't people who remember this, Calvin and Stafford took a little while.
They did. Because that's a different level of speed, right?
Absolutely. And if they can utilize his speed in different ways, and Ben Johnson can, I mean, he's able to do it. That's a great weapon to have. It's exciting. And his I've said this I've said the whole time. I like the way he approaches the game, his joyfulness of it, his attitude, and he enjoys it. And also the toughness. He's showing a little toughness, like you said, making guys miss, fighting for more yards, lowering your shoulders. So that's a fun part of him that I think, more fans will embrace.
No, for sure. And Jared Goff said after the game, he said, look, we're starting to trust him. And they wouldn't be. The first series of the game, I think they targeted him twice. I don't even know that they ran. They ended up punting. But the fact that they were targeting him shows you they're trusting him more and more. And it also shows you what you're doing, what he's doing in practice, as you and I were talking about during the game. Yeah. Goff more or less said that after the game. But if he's at some point, he's going to bust a big run off, or not a big run, a big playoff in some capacity. You think about the playoffs, though, Carlos, and I want to talk to you about next week, the Minnesota, and then maybe the Cowboys, and what kind of team they might have in the playoffs. But he's somebody that it just takes one play sometimes when you're in a tighter game in a playoff, or you're trying to keep up with somebody and you need something to happen, right? If he's getting to the point where he can get across or get an out and somebody slips and he's up the sideline, whatever, but even just once a game.
Yeah.
Or in a tight game, it's just another place to go that's going to make them more difficult. All right, so they go to Minnesota next week. They have a chance to clinch for the first time since 1993, which is it's really something, actually. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Is that started to dawn on you? Just that, I don't want to say historical, but kind of is for this team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's something that it's just been hard to entertain. And when they've had good seasons in the past, like we said, I think it was 11 wins in 14. The Packers that year, I think, were just better. So I don't know if it's the Packers, but it probably was. They've just been caught in a tough division with, back-to-back Hall of Famers, quarterbacks of the Packers. So this is an opportunity for them. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to win the division, whether they do it next week or the week after, whatever. But it looks more and more, Minnesota's doing everything they can. They lost today to help the Lions. So this is kind of, it's one of those, same old Lions, but this is the strange new Lions, it's like everything's breaking their way. When they're struggling, the other teams in the division are struggling. So that's things are playing out for them and the fans for once, because it's been a tough 60 plus years, Shawn. So this will be nice. You think they're going to do is it almost, unfortunately they can't celebrate at home. That's the only sad part. They're not back for 3 weeks.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I guess, if you're a Lions fan, you're going to take it any way you can. Right?
No, for sure. I don't think they want to celebrate this home, because then that would mean they lose at Minnesota, lose to Dallas.
Oh, no, right.
And then it comes back here. But no, I know what you mean, though. Yeah, it would be a lot of fun if they celebrated at home. I'm just thinking about
a quick question. Will they do if they do win next week, like a premature banner raising for the division title in two? But Ron Wood out there holding the banner.
There's going to be some if they win in Minnesota next week, they're going to be celebrating in that locker room, and they should.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. They should.
Absolutely.
They of course. Look, think about where they were when the year Dan Campbell took over, right? When they won 3 games that year, they started off 1-6 last year. Just the build as the season went on last year, where they are this year. Well, we can talk a little bit more about this when they actually do it. We both think they're going to do it. But just real quick, big picture. How good can these guys be? We see the offense tonight when they're healthy, when the offensive line is healthy. We see what Williams has started to do. We see Gibbs getting better and better. As long as Goff can stand in there and relax under pressure and make, the 3rd and 5 throws, the 3rd and 6 throws, which he did not do in Chicago, but he did do tonight. As long as he does that, I think they could be pretty formidable. And you think defensively, Carlos, they've added it's not that they've added, but they might get CJ Gardner-Johnson back. Although, do they want him back at this point with the way Melifonwu is playing? They moved him for quarterback. What do you think about some of the moves they've made defensively, and then maybe getting James Houston back at some point?
I don't know about this season, maybe, but also, those guys, that they come back, they got to get back into football shape. They got to practice. They're not going to hit the ground running right away. And it's also, we're not talking Darrelle Revis coming back, or Dion or something. These guys are decent average players, starters in the NFL.
Better than average, but yeah.
Okay. Did you know who they were before this season?
Yeah, because he was on a winning team, and he was part of a really good defense and made plays. But
okay. Yeah. It's not, to me, how good can they be? I think you kind of said it, is you almost said it as directly as when everything's perfect for Jared Goff, they can be very good. It's hard to have everything perfect in the playoffs, especially. Any little thing can go wrong. So, and they're going to play much tougher defense. And the thing you said about JMO, like, yeah, would it be nice to have an option like that, especially in tighter games in the playoffs? Yeah, you're going to be playing some pretty good defenses. Chances are he's
going to be critical, isn't he?
It's going to be, he's going to be critical, but it's not going to be that easy for him to get open and make these plays.
But what he showed tonight, we were talking about this. I don't necessarily want to go back to this, but we should. You're talking about St. Brown and Laporta and the running game. The best defenses in the NFL could make it really tough to run no matter how good your running game is. Yeah. Laporta, as good as he's been, St. Brown is as good as he's been. All of a sudden, you got somebody over on the outside who's not just a once-a-game down-the-field threat, but a legitimate helper of moving the chains and playmaker. And that to me, changes things against the best defenses. Not that they're going to go run 42 up, but
it's another option.
Yeah.
Sure, it helps. But yeah, I mean, I just wonder, I've just said it the whole season. I'm going to keep saying it is, it's the defense. It's the defense has to be able to hold up, and they're not going to have to play the Cowboys right away. But at some point, they're going to have to, if they want to do anything in the playoffs, they're going to have to go through the Cowboys or San Francisco or the Eagles, and it's going to be hard. Those teams have good defenses. They're really good offensively. They have tough really good, mobile, elusive quarterbacks, dynamic offenses. It's going to be a different caliber. And people have kind of said this a little bit, and the Lions haven't had a super tough schedule this year. They've kind of gotten yet again more Lions luck. I mean, we're not used to it, but it's worked out for them. They're due for a little bit of luck, so no problem. But I think they know. I think they know that things are going to start getting. They're going to get tighter. It's going to be tougher. And I think the Broncos game today was a good, maybe final legitimate test against a hot team that was playing well, that has a veteran quarterback, not what he used to be, but a quality quarterback. And they got straight A's on this exam and nobody expects him to win in Dallas. The Vikings are now down to their third quarterback and they're struggling. So this was probably a good tune-up for them, and they passed with flying colors. So I think you could, I hate to speak for intent, but almost it felt like they were fighting for yards. They were fighting to show something, when Gibbs is lowering his shoulder and making guys miss, when JMO's doing it, Laporta, when Melifonwo's, making plays everywhere, when they're sacking. He's been
pretty good lately.
He's been very good. Yeah. And it just felt, and I don't know, maybe part of it was like, hey, let's win one for Campbell against Sean Payton, right? I mean, that Campbell
maybe a little bit.
He's talked to us all week about Sean Payton. No, he's not been shy about that. He's talking to the players about that.
For sure, they probably wanted that to a degree, but they also were getting tired of hearing.
Sure.
They'd lost 2 or 3. They've been struggling, especially offensively, and which has been their bread and butter all season. And that's what really I started to worry a lot of the fans.
Right.
Was the offense. They understand the defense has been what it's been all season. But when you see them scuffling and scoring 13 points in Chicago against a decent defense, but not a great defense. Defense that got a little bit better because of who they've added at the trade deadline. But
the Lions could have gotten.
Yeah, right. Another. We don't need to go there. Maybe you do want to go there. I don't know. But in any case, look, we're not saying they're going to go win the Super Bowl. That they're even a Super Bowl contender. Although as Dan Campbell said after the game, it's about matchups, and sometimes you get the right matchup, and there's a lot of truth to that. Bottom line, I want to get your last thoughts. They needed to play better. They did.
Absolutely.
That's the first step. Well, so what's the next one? I mean, aside from winning the division, where do they go from here? What would you like to see?
I would like to see a decisive win on the road against Minnesota to emphatically clinch the NFC North for the first time. Leave no doubt. Bury the team there in that Viking ship of a stadium, and then go to Dallas and at least keep it close. Be competitive. Don't get run off the field. And it'll be interesting because after they win the division title, it's like, you know, you got to feel good about yourself, confident, but you can't let it stop there. And they're going to be hearing nothing but praise about winning, you know, clinching the division, and they may clinch it tomorrow. But winning the division, they're going to get, a lot of these players, I mean, like Anzalone is a smart guy. He's a veteran. He did figure out that it had been 9 years, but one is a lot of players don't know how long it's been. A lot of players don't know the depths of despair of this franchise and their fan base. And they just don't understand what all this losing has done to the fans. And the flip side of that is when you win, finally, they're going to hear it so much. It's going to be a challenge for the coaches to keep their heads on straight and to tell them, like, this is not where it ends. We got a lot more to go. We can't let up because Dallas is out there. If you thought that Payton was going to score 50 points or whatever, try to embarrass them, you can bet that that the Cowboys are going to try to do the same.
Oh, for sure.
And they can do it. So that's a really dangerous game. Don't get embarrassed out in Dallas, and that'll give you hope for the playoffs.
So clinch at Minnesota. I don't know that they can clinch it tomorrow, right? Because Minnesota they lost today. They're 7-7, if I'm not mistaken. So they're 3.
They can clinch a playoff spot tomorrow.
Yeah, playoff spot, but they can't clinch the division. Minnesota's 3 games behind. They're 3 games left. Do the math. One more combination of loss, win, or
tie, maybe a tie.
Yeah, or beating, you know, and they're dead.
If Atlanta loses, but Tampa Bay, I don't know.
No. They can go clinch the division next week in Minnesota. All right, we've been here long enough. We need to get you home. You need your burrito, rest. You look, marvelous. How about that? Can we say that? You're getting a tan. I don't know how you keep your tan a little bit.
It's a bronze.
Are you using in the? Are you in the little tube, the booth with the purple light?
I sleep in a tanning bed every night. 10 hours.
You use your
Yep.
Your goggles.
Just think of when you think of me sleeping, think of Christian Bale in American Psycho in his little tanning bed. That's me every night.
And you use the goggles. And then the goggles make a ring though, so you cover those in bronzer. That's right.
Eye cream. Yeah.
Eye cream. Okay.
Yeah. Special.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
Nice.
It's important.
I like how you mostly covered the whiskers, but they come through a little bit.
I could grow a beard in the afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All righty. That's enough here from Ford Field again. 42-17 Lions over the Broncos, 10 wins with a chance to do something, get to a place, they haven't been to in a long, long time, in just a week. Until, when are we going to record? Later this week, we'll be back with more Free Press Sports with Carlsters. All right, we'll be back later this week. Well, I'm sure we'll break down the lines a little bit more. Who knows, maybe some of your favorite sport in hockey, or is it baseball? I can never remember.
Highlight.
Okay, highlight. We'll do that. All right. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all later this week.